Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We have got a bona fide fishing champion to introduce to you today. His name is Cody Hollen. He hails from Beaverton, Oregon, and he just won the Bassmaster BASS Nation Championship. Cody, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
It's quite a feat. I mean, you beat out 115 of the best anglers in the nation in a state that is a long ways away from Oregon to take home the championship. We'll talk about that in a minute, but let's start off by talking about Bassmaster's tournament circuit called Bass Nation. It'd be fair to say this is your working man, grassroots, entry-level, kind of weekend warrior entry into the Bassmaster Tournament Series, isn't it?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how you got into Bass Nation.
Long story short, my dad used to fish the Bass Nation stuff back when I was about, 10 years old, somewhere around there. He fished as a co-angler. He also had a boat, got us into fishing. I started riding motocross and got hurt pretty much 2 years in a row. And, I sat down with my dad and I was like, look, I got to find something else to do. It's like I can't be missing 6 months of work every 2 years because I'm getting hurt all the time.
Right.
So him and I went out together and bought a bass boat, joined a bass club, and then one of the guys in the bass club was like, hey, we're actually, we're fishing this Oregon Bass Nation qualifier down at 10 Mile. They were doing a little bit differently back then, so I could actually pick my partner. So I called a buddy of mine. I was like, hey, I've never fished one of these. Let's go down and fish it. Great group of guys, so we went down and fished it. I mean, we didn't finish very well, but still to this day I remember that day at that lake. We caught so many fish that day in the 3 to 3.5 pound range that it was ridiculous. And that was pretty much the start of me wanting to fish the Bass Nation qualifiers here in Oregon.
Wow. And by the way, folks, 10 Mile Lake, it's down towards Reedsport in the Central Oregon coast. It is quite a good bass fishing lake if you are interested in heading on down there. When it comes to Bass Nation, you don't really hear about it a lot here in the Pacific Northwest. You mainly hear about the Northwest Bass Circuit, and I know they've got a tournament that takes place at 10 Mile Lake, though most of theirs are up in Washington State. Where does Bass Nation fish in Oregon outside of 10 Mile?
Typically, like this last year, we had one on Silk Goose. We had one on 10 Mile, obviously. We had one at Boardman on the Columbia River, and then we had another one out at Hood River. Typically, there will be 2 on the river, possibly 3, and then 2 on the coastal lakes is usually how they do it to kind of cater to the guys that are closer to each destination so they don't have to travel, 5-6 hours. And kind of where I'm at, I'm centrally located. Everything's about 3.5 hours from me, so it's not too bad with where I'm at getting to these tournaments.
So how did you go from fishing these small weekend tournaments for Bass Nation to qualifying for the championship that took place in South Carolina at Lake Hartwell?
It's basically been a 2-year journey, or close to a 2-year journey for the whole thing. The regional qualifier was actually this year, and to qualify for that regional at Lake Shasta, we had to fish 4 tournaments starting in April of last year.
Okay.
So there were actually 4 tournaments last year all together that are qualifiers. They take 1 drop. They take the top 10 in points for the boaters, top 10 in points for the non-boaters. We go to a regional at Lake Shasta, which was in May of this year, and you fish against the 11 Western states, but you're still fishing against the 10 guys from Oregon to win the state of Oregon while you're there, too. So there's a tournament within a tournament going on as well.
Interesting.
Then from there, obviously, you win the state of Oregon, then on to nationals you go.
Okay. So speaking of nationals and the championship, you were competing against 115 other anglers from 47 states and 11 countries, to include one very good angler from South Africa who almost won this thing. And this was a 3-day tournament, and it's not like you were the top 3 from start to finish. As a matter of fact, you were in 19th place after day 1, 10th place after day 2. How did you vault to first place?
The first 2 days, my bigger fish were coming on this lipless crankbait that I was throwing. There was really no rhyme or reason to it. I was just kind of fan casting it around as I would pull up to a spot that I thought there may be some fish on. I would drop on top a lot of fish with a drop shot, but that wasn't catching the better quality fish. This lipless was. And for some reason, something clicked on the final day. As I was down lake, I realized that the lake hadn't turned over yet. and that was a huge key in where those fish were setting up at. So they have cane piles there that a lot of these guys will go out and they'll drop. It's a giant bamboo stick, and it's got branches and stuff that they stick to it and a bush at the top of it, basically. And those spots will suspend in it, and they drop them in that 20, 25-foot range on the break lines of humps and points and that kind of stuff. So I pulled up to one probably about 11:30 and threw my lipless out there and started reeling, got about 3 cranks in, and the rod just loaded up, and it was a good one. It was one that you set into, and it doesn't move. It doesn't come towards you or anything, and then all of a sudden it popped off.
Oh.
And I'm like, yeah, I was like, I have to keep my head, keep telling myself, keep my head in it. Don't lose it. Don't freak out. Don't do anything. And, everything that runs through my head is Gerald Swindle's PMA, positive mental attitude. And I just kept focused, and a kind of light bulb went off, and I had 5 or 6 of those things marked down there that I hadn't touched all week.
Right.
So I started running all of those, and when I did that, the next one I pulled up on, I caught one that was 2.5, and the next one I pulled up on, I caught one that was 2. The next one I pulled up on, I lost one. Pulled up on another one, caught one that was probably 3.5. Went back to the one that I lost one on and caught another one. I mean, it was like clockwork. They were predictable, and they were there.
Wow.
And it just happened from 11:45 to 2:15. I caught all 5 of my fish that I weighed in.
I love it. And especially the fact that you caught it with a lipless crankbait. That's one of my favorite lures to use. But, a lot of people always say that a lipless crankbait, I understand you were throwing a Yozuri. I like to throw a rattle trap. A lot of people say it's a prospecting lure, that you use that to find the fish, and then you do something like you said, like drop shotting. But that remained your go-to lure for the tournament, didn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I knew I could probably throw a spinnerbait or something by these and get bit as well, or even an underspin. But the way that they were eating this specific lipless, and being as I was throwing it over about 25, 26 feet of water, I wasn't going to put it down. I mean, the bigger fish were eating it, and that's what I had confidence that I could get bit on consistently. And I think my biggest fish that I had actually had the thing, which I've only seen one other fish do this, had the thing all the way down its throat.
Oh, my gosh.
I had to get pliers in there to get it out, and I was afraid I wasn't going to be able to get it out.
Oh, my gosh. Well, it all paid off. Again, you are the champion, the Bass Nation champion. You beat out everybody else. You won $20,000 in cash. But more importantly, you are now at the next level if you choose to go there. You've got an invitation to compete at the 2020 Bassmaster Classic, which, as we all know, is the Super Bowl of bass fishing. You've also got an invitation to fish the 2020 Bassmaster Elite Series and paid entry, which is no small thing, into the 2020 Bass Pro Bassmaster Opens division of your choice. So the question is this, Cody: are you going to quit the day job and become a full-time Bass Pro?
I got a few things in the works right now. That is my ultimate plan at this point. I have the support from my family, my girlfriend. She's 100% on board. She's done way more work into this than probably even I have. I mean, she's got my resume all set up. Her dad has been going crazy with everybody that he knows that owns businesses and that kind of stuff, and he's been extremely helpful. I mean, she hasn't even been able to get work done at work because he hasn't left her alone, with trying to get us in contact with, the union that he works for is wanting to help out. He's got some friends that own some bigger businesses that, I got to get my information to try to see, kind of what they can do. So, I still got a few things in the works. I mean, it's probably going to be another week or two before I know 100% sure, but I want to have that financial backing before I say, yes, I'm going to do this. That's a huge thing.
That's very wise, Cody, because it's not cheap to be a bass pro. It costs a lot of money to make money when it comes to that profession. In the meantime, though, congratulations on a fantastic win and for representing the state of Oregon and becoming the Bass Nation champion. Folks, if you want to find out more about Bass Nation and fishing in whatever state you're listening from today, go to bassmaster.com/bass-nation. Cody, thanks so much, and congratulations again from all of us here at Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you for having me.